Hello, my name is Nicole Solis, and this is the first lecture for a U.S. History Survey 1492 to 1865 undergraduate level course named Worlds Collide, Native America and the Meaning of First Contact. Everyone knows the grammar school poem, In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and we all pride ourselves in knowing the date of such an important event. But it really is important. This moment signifies one of the first contacts between the eastern and western hemispheres. With this one moment, the lives of both worlds collide, and nothing will ever be the same. Our essential question for the week asks how the Native Americans and Europeans interacted and how this altered both societies. So I felt it best to start the moment of first contact for our first lecture. Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer commissioned by the monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. This commission was perpetuated by the fall of Constantinople in 1453 and Ottoman control of the eastern trade routes. Spain was desperately interested in establishing eastern trade routes outside of Ottoman control. So when Columbus came and said that he could achieve this feat by sailing west, the monarchs enthusiastically approved. When Columbus and his men arrived in what he thought were the Asian islands off the coast of India, he actually became the first European ever recorded to set foot on the Caribbean islands. He and his men almost immediately encountered the Taino people. Also known as the island Arawaks, Tainos were the dominant culture of the Caribbean, with historians estimating their population to be between 1 and 8 million people. They, like many of the American natives, practiced a matrilineal system, which is basically like a kinship and inheritance that pass through the mother. Skilled in farming, the Tanos people harvested cassava, sweet potatoes, and maize, which is a type of corn. They were polytheistic, and their worship, usually involving the use of tobacco and communal dancing, centered around physical objects or idols representing the various deities and ancestral spirits. Many of the modern English and Spanish words were actually adopted from the Arawakan language group. Words such as barbacoa or barbecue, and hamaca or hammock, or huracan or hurricane. Incidentally, many of these American native cultures were highly sophisticated with complex civilizations in North, South, and Central America. These many diverse North American populations, such as the Pueblo and Chaco Canyon in modern day northern New Mexico, established sophisticated agricultural practices, including domestication of animals and extensive trading networks. The Lenapes in modern day northeastern United States formulated a small government through dispersed authority and small settlements based on kinship. Mexico and Central America fostered some of the largest and most successful civilizations in the Americas. Ones such as the Mayans, who developed skills in written language, mathematics, and an accurate calendar. The Aztecs, with their advanced infrastructure and military dominance. In South America lived the Incan civilization, which had an expansive network of roads for trade and a staggering population of 12 million people. Yet Columbus, unaware of these massive civilizations just across the Caribbean Sea, described the Taínos as timid and full of fear. He did conclude, however, that once he commenced to trade with them, they became open and agreeable. Columbus's journal reveals his true intentions with these people. One of his initial observations was their ignorance of iron weapons, illustrating the Spaniards' desire to weigh the competition, so to speak. Tanos, they brought many items of trade with them when interacting with the Spaniards as well. This exchange of goods later became described as the Columbian Exchange, which was a global exchange that transformed environments and revolutionized demographics. The natives, they received domesticated pigs, which substantially diversified their protein intake, and horses from Spain, which of course transformed the plain societies. The Europeans received potatoes, which, being high in starch, fueled the population growth in Europe, and they also received corn to feed their livestock. This greatly expanded global trading networks. Now, what Columbus was looking for was evident in his accounts. Almost immediately, he notices the jewelry on the natives and inquires as to where this gold was attained. One of the main motivations of European exploration was in search of new markets to supply their growing demands. So, Columbus's note of this detail is helpful in our understanding of these motivations. Another motivation is a powerful desire to spread Christianity throughout the world. More importantly, the Spanish wanted to convert the natives to Catholicism. The Reconquista in the Iberian Peninsula was a source of motivation where the Spanish violently expelled the Muslims and Jews. It was a it was common actually for Spanish explorers to bring priests and missionaries on their expeditions who would preach not only to the Europeans but also to the people they encountered along the way. Columbus noted in his journal that the Taino people seemed to be fairly intelligent, making them ideal candidates for conversion. Again, this observation highlights the motivation for Christian dominance. So, approximately after 3 months of exploration, Columbus goes back home to Spain, but not without first leaving 39 Spaniards to man the fort in Hispaniola. He took with him many spoils, including some captured Taino natives who had resisted the Spanish dominance. In his reports to the Spanish crown, he mentions that if he had just 50 more men, he could, to return with him, he would be able to subjugate and control the Taino population. In return, the crown provided actually 50 ships and 1,000 men. It wasn't long before the entire population of the Taino people was completely eradicated due to his methods of forced labor, brutal violence, and systemic subjugation. So, Bartolome de las Casas, a Spanish priest who advocated for the native peoples, recorded what he considered barbarities of the Spanish people in an effort to change the laws regarding native subjugation under the encomienda system. So the encomienda system was essentially, or initially, it was promised as this protection of the natives under the Spanish crown, along with providing Christian instruction. However, it kind of transitioned to coerced labor extraction. While Las Casas managed to convince the crown to enact laws abolishing this system, the replacement wasn't much better, and when the native populations dwindled, the Spanish just ended up resorting to the importation of African slaves under the Asiento system. So, in his manuscript, The Destruction of the Indies, Las Casas wrote, I saw with these eyes of mine the Spaniards for no other reason but only to gratify their bloody mindedness cut off the hands, noses, and ears of both Indians and Indianesses. He saw this barbarity as exploitative, casual, and dehumanizing. Unfortunately, through disease, subjugation, and violence, by the mid 17th century, some historians have estimated that at least 90 to 95% of the native populations were destroyed. Now, Columbus's first encounter is just one of the many encounters between Europeans and the Native Americans. More importantly, the themes we see here, forced labor, racial hierarchy, and economic extraction, will shape colonial America, slavery, and sectional conflict. In the next chapter, you're going to see the similarities and differences between Spanish motivations and tactics and the other European explorers and settlers. So, to better prepare you for the rest of the class, I want you to ask yourself as you read this chapter and as you complete the activities for this week, what were the various interactions between these two societies? What made them so different? And did intentions matter more than outcomes? For example, the story of the Taino people is actually a more recent historical account. Columbus, even when I was a kid in school, was long portrayed as this heroic figure in American textbooks, as a defender of Western culture and religion. Accounts of the native resistance against the Spanish explorers, such as the burning of the La Navidad fort, where Columbus left his 39 men, the murder of Spanish colonists, and the destruction of their crops, shifted the Spanish mindset from subjugation to eradication. And many argue that while Columbus and the Spaniards' actions were, yeah, horrific, they were not completely unjustifiable. Just make sure that you provide yourself with a holistic view of this time period without labeling each empire as wrong and this one is right, because you're going to find that the answer is not as simple as our grammar school nursery rhymes make it seem to be. Thank y'all so much, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.